For those of you who don't know me, Marc Buman. Like Scotty earlier this morning, I'm also on the executive at Plumbing Products Industry Group, and like him, encourage you all to come along and join us if you're involved in the industry, and you can get some benefit from being involved in the organisation, like I certainly have in my companies. Our next guest today is going to talk about building information modelling, and I need to be fairly quick in my intro because we're a little behind time. My experience with BIM modelling and Revit goes back probably 10 years or so in supplying box products through one of our businesses, hand dryers, paper towel dispensers, those sort of things, where they were to be integrated into building designs. Recently we completed a vacuum drainage system in Avac Australia, and there was a really strong commitment to BIM modelling in the project. And having worked on that over 4 years and post-construction now at Optus Stadium, it's been really eye-opener for me to understand the real ongoing benefits of good modelling and the integration of that not only into building designs but facilities management post-construction. The ability now for the facility operator, and I've seen this in action at Optus Stadium, for them to know that they have 657 thermostatic mixing valves. They know where each and every one of them is from the model. They know who the manufacturer is. They know when they require service. They know how much service is going to cost, and they know what the end of life is. The benefits of that are enormous going forward, and it does tie a little bit in to what Bonnie was saying earlier about traceability. Most of these critical components in buildings now become barcoded and have some sort of future maintenance schedules and traceability, so it's an interesting tie-in. But I don't know anything compared to our next speaker. He has a degree in mechanical engineering. He's principal of hydraulics and fire protection at Grieve. Works out of the Melbourne office. He's vice president or future vice president of AHSCA Victorian chapter. Past vice president, and maybe future as well. He is a member of American Society of Plumbing Engineers. Some of his recent projects include the Tribe Hotel in Perth, Bloodstone Arena, the Mona Museum in Tasmania, 883 and 889 Collins Streets for Lend-Lease, and he's going to tell you all about the future of BIM modelling. Give him a round of applause. John Lucchetti is his name, sorry.
Cheers, Mark. So I guess at this juncture I realise I'm the only thing between everyone here in this room and lunch, so I'll try and keep it short and sweet. It's good to see that all our standards committees and all that have taken the regulation sort of time to get through their stuff, so it's all to be expected, I guess. So today we're going to talk a little bit about BIM. Now, when Jeff approached me about this, he said, "Look, I want you to cater your presentation from those with zero knowledge about what BIM is up to a bit of, what's the future direction of it." So I'll try and keep it relatively broad, and I guess the direction and experience that I come at it from is, wood and Grieve engineers across Australia. We probably have about 80 hydraulic engineers working in our practice across all the states. So we get involved in a fair bit of BIM modelling, and I guess we get to see, we'd like to think we're on the sort of forefront of what's going on in that space. Talk a little bit about the what, why, when, and how. So for those in the room sitting here going, what is BIM? I'd be surprised if there's too many hands that go up, but it's building information modelling. Basically, it's when you hear someone on a project talk about a BIM model, it's about now not just, the building physics and the spatials in the model, but it's actually about embedding data and databases and object-oriented families into what we're modelling. So BIM origins, everyone's like this new buzz thing. So we went and did a bit of research and said, hey, where's it all come from? So Engelbart, 1962, is known as the father of BIM. So it's been around for a little bit. In the 70s, it was referred to as BDS, Building Description System, and that's when it was really just spatial data. In the 80s, it went to BPM, so it was a building product model. And that really, the change there is it started to allow for, some estimation in the building modelling. In the 90s, It became GPM, which was GBM, which was generic building model, and that started to allow for some design options, like what would future design options be like, and what would product lifecycle. Then come along into the noughties, and we have, I guess, the boom of technology. Our computing power gets a lot better. Probably what's sitting in my pocket as a mobile phone now is way better than what people were working on then, and that's the advent of BIM as we know it today, and it's grown from there. So I guess you'll hear about 3D, 4D, and 5D BIM. What does that mean? I guess 3D BIM is 3 dimensions. It's all your spatial dimensions. So that's when you talk about 3D BIM, we're talking about a model that just has the spatial data in there, coordinating where my plant's going, where my pipes are going, as they're going through beams, etc., etc. In the 4D stage, we add the time factor. In that factor, we're talking about looking at things like construction sequencing, staging, how the building's going together with time as a parameter. And in the 5D, we start talking about cost and building in cost parameters into our BIM model. I guess the Ds are really never ending because you can kind of add as many dimensions as you want, and you can sort of fabricate any dimension that you like. People have spoken about like a 6D being a safety and design dimension, where we talk about how it's actually built and is it safe to install, and the list goes on and on. But I guess that's the normal talk that we have about it. I guess what can it be used for? So I guess first and foremost, you can use it for just visualization and presentation. It's a great tool to show off your design, your building. I guess if you're communicating to someone who isn't technically savvy and you want to show them, there's no better forum than using a BIM model that can be consumed on a screen, as a printout, now also in VR and AR technology. Coordination, I guess that's one of our towers that we've done there, and it gives you a bit of an idea of how busy some of these BIM models can get. So when you're sort of going high-rise and you're trying to coordinate every floor plate as part of your remit as a consultant, that's starting to be what the design BIM model looks like. That's not even the shop drawing one. Data management. So as mentioned, one of the great things that BIM gives us is it's a pretty fancy database. So what we can do is we can quite easily schedule out of BIM. So we can pull out schedules for what materials in there. We can spit out schedules to then run costs or bill of quantities or whatever we so choose. But the important thing is the data's in there. Constructability, so this is quite an interesting example. This is a real project for us where we used our 3D scanner and overlaid it with the structural engineer's stair model, and actually then did a plus-minus analysis to help it was in an existing building on Collins Street, and they couldn't actually work out, it was quite complex where the new stair and the existing stair was, so we overlaid the two to help the builders actually visualise what they had to demolish and what could remain as part of the stair. So I guess one of my passions, I sit on the board of Prefab Oz, so I do a lot of modular construction jobs. There's a few of the ones we've been involved there. We've seen, I guess, BIM as really sort of fundamental to that space. I guess we talk a lot about BIM in terms of, I guess, conventional construction, but where it's going with some of it is actually build to manufacture. So where we're going from BIM models and people prefabricating assemblies to go straight into buildings. And a really good example for those looking at the central screen on the far right, you can see a module in a factory there. The surfaces fit off and hung, and that's then shipped to a site. Now that particular one was actually built in Melbourne and then shipped overseas to Perth to be installed. So pretty interesting what you can do, and I guess without BIM, that sort of stuff gets pretty tricky because I guess coordinating all those interfaces can be quite tricky. And I guess some of the projects we've seen is like the Tribe Hotel that's existing over there in West Perth is a great example of a project. That one's quite interesting in that it was actually built in China and delivered in Perth. So what advantages does it give us? I guess operational management. You can organise the handover to the client. It can be quite, I guess, of assistance in as-built documentation. So you'll hear a lot of talk about LOD 300, 400, 500, and these are the levels of design or the levels of detail that we go to with our models. And that starts defining what we're actually handing over to the client. So when you hear about I want to manage my facility from the BIM model and have all my families in there accurate, you're talking LOD 500 at that point, and you need to actually have like unique identifiers on each family so it can be tracked and maintenance intervals on them and all the rest of it. That builds into point number 3 for the integrated maintenance. So having that information in the BIM model means that it can then integrate with some sort of FM package, if you like, and can be used as a hub for storing that data. And then finally, I guess one of the frontiers is then operational efficiency. So, I guess with having all this data, we've probably got an unparalleled opportunity at the moment to then be analysing what's installed and to be making it more efficient, to be tweaking it, to run analysis and computations on that, to make our design. So one of the things we talk a lot about in our practice at the moment is data-informed design as the next thing. And we see that as a really big thing for the future of our industry, is where all of a sudden we've seen the cost of sensors go down a lot. All the devices, Internet of Things, are now talking a lot more and a lot more cheaply. And so we see one of the future endeavours being where that data is coming back to inform either how you refine the system in an existing site, or in fact you might take that data and use it to inform the design on the new buildings that you're working on. So one of the benefits, or the proposed benefits, is de-risking and cost saving. So I guess by doing the heavy design work up front, you try and introduce more simplicity to your design, try and make it more transparent. So I guess for us, we found as consultants, there's a lot less room to hide in a 3D model. Can't just sort of draw an indicative line and leave it to the plumber to work out. It's there for all to see, and everyone can see that it's going straight through the cable tray. You're like, yeah, fantastic, that's on us. And I guess the third part of that is the continuity. So what we are seeing now is models going from a design model being handed over to subbies and builders who take that model forward into a construction model. So it's really interesting to see that. And I guess one really interesting thing that we've seen as a practice has been that all of a sudden we're doing lots of shop drawing jobs in BIM. So actually some of our biggest clients now are the plumbers around Australia who are approaching us and saying, hey, we don't know how to grapple with this stuff, we don't have the technical expertise, can you help us out? And we're absolutely loving it because we're actually getting heaps and heaps of good feedback on products, which is probably very relevant here. What they like and what they hate comes straight to us. When you're in consultant land, it normally just gets substituted and you get out to site and you're like, oh, what are these? We inspect these, and there's an argument, and normally they bully their way in with the product. But now when we're working with the plumbers, that's an integral discussion that's happening with us as the designers. What works and doesn't work, and we love that feedback, and it's been a big learning curve for us. So when is all this stuff happening, I guess is the key question. Well, it's right now. This isn't a thing of the future. I don't see it as a thing of the future. We see probably, more than 50% of our clients have an expectation that we deliver our projects in BIM. I would say there'd be less uptake in forcing that on the builder at this stage, but certainly your big government work, your big corporate companies like your Lend Leases of the world and all the rest of it are driving this now. So it's no longer, just because we think it's good, it's actually not even an option anymore. So I wanted to pull a few examples from around the world just so we can get an idea. So in the UK, they have the COBE standard. The COBE standard's really good. So what it's trying to do is actually, I guess, unify BIM land. It's trying to give a clear standard of saying, hey, we want to be able to use families in a variety of platforms. We don't want to be wedded to Bentley or Autodesk. We want that to be able to talk to each other. And we want a standardised, I guess, form for families to work to. So if we need to asset tag them or put in maintenance schedules, all the rest of it, there's an agreement between everyone of how we do that. And I think that's quite a forward-thinking thing. If you look at Singapore, their government's been researching into mandating BIM on projects. So saying any project over 5,000 square metres will get mandated that it must be done in BIM. And the reason people are doing that is, I guess, I've had the benefit of meeting with the BCA in Singapore, and a lot of what they do around that stuff is the way they see the world is they mandate stuff, throw a bit of coin behind it to then support the industry, and they use that as their method as the building authority there to upskill the industry and get it over that hurdle where everyone's sort of hanging back on, we don't want to invest in it. So that's how they tend to tackle it. And then same in the UAE, looking at a very similar thing. with sort of buildings of a certain size being mandated. So in Australia, there's been some studies along the same vein, where they're looking at smart infrastructure and the like, where we're looking to mandate. So how? I guess this is sort of the plethora of different technologies out there, and I don't even have my head across all of them. I went to my best BIM guy in my team and hit me with all of them, and he goes, you don't want all of them? He goes, I'll just give you the ones, the easy ones. So you've got some pretty big players, I guess, and you look at Autodesk, and I would say for everything related to plumbing systems and I guess hydraulic services, is we live, and all the consultants in our industry in Australia basically live in Revit when it comes to BIM. It's pretty much the platform. Our architectural friends are a bit more divided, so they go sort of between Revit and they go also between ArchiCAD. We see the most of them. Our friends over in the UK tend to use the Bentley systems quite a lot. There's different systems in there, so you've got stuff like Navisworks that's around, I guess, clash detection and coordinating in BIM. And then you've got things like InfraWorks that are more, I guess, roads and big civil design, and things like BIM 360, which is taking the whole BIM platform and trying to make it portable. So that's like, hey, I don't want to have Revit on my computer, but I want to be able to access a BIM model on an iPad and have a look at it while I'm out on site. Other things that we've seen in there would be things like Trimble, Tekla, Aconex really pushing to integrate with BIM now. So you've got Aconex as embedded BIM viewers in the system that can be enabled on projects, which is pretty cool. They've also got, I guess, APIs that are allowing us to speak directly to Aconex. So like when we're updating our model, it's automatically pulling in drawings to Aconex, which we think is pretty cool. And then you've got those other ones like FreeCAD and SketchUp, which are probably the lower end packages for like scheming. And then for those that are really into it, you've got things like Rhino and Dynamo, and these are visual programming interfaces, so where we can start building automation into our BIM system. So that's the kind of stuff where I can say, hey, grab my BIM model, and I want it to speak to this pipe sizing or hot water unit sizing or pump sizing solver. So I'm going to spit all that information out and let the solver do its thing, and I'm going to spit it all back into Revit and update your model. So that's sort of where some of the future automation of design's heading. Some of the future bits. So we talked about the 6D, and I guess one of the opportunities for that 6D is a building system lifecycle. So I guess building more holistically on what do we do with that building at end of life, during upgrade and all the rest of it into our BIM models. Something that we're pretty passionate about and we've pursued pretty heavily is the 3D photogrammetry. So I'm getting my mate Stilly, he's never operated this, so this will be quite an interesting test. So he's going to jump out, he's going to hit escape on this. He's going to go to the tab with the space detail, he's going to hit the little square on the bottom right. Now with the arrow key, he's going to show you here 883 Pollen Street in Melbourne, which is a scan we did of a site that was in construction. He's going to rotate, he's going to jump into that model. And he's actually going to walk through the building and do a defects inspection with all of us here. Lendlease have given me permission to show this, so it's all good. They were happy, so they're pretty proud of their work. So this is one of the things that we're using as the technology, and this was the same technology we used to then spit out a point cloud and do the stair overlay that I showed you guys before. So we think that this is pretty cool. You can see a digital tag there, which is great work by Stilly. He's just all over it for me. So how is this operated? It's operated in a browser, so you can just consume it anywhere you like. What you're looking at here is the front end that I'd share with you if you ask me, hey, can I have a look at that today? On the back end of this, we can go and digitally tag, we can add links, and we can even dimension off this stuff. So it's pretty cool stuff. I'll get Stilly to jump back into the presentation, done a terrific job.
You had a QR code on the wall.
Yeah, oh no, that's a Lendlease thing. Oh, sorry, could I ask that? Yeah. That's a Lendlease thing. That's for their pod business stuff. They use that to track the pods that are going out to site as a quality measure. No, that's not us thing. So if how we go? So VR, AR is another big thing. I guess like something that we've got in our office now, which I never thought we'd have, is we have a virtual reality room in our office where we go and have a look at designs. You put the goggles on, and you're looking through, and you feel a bit seasick, and you almost fall over, inevitably one of the goofy engineers punches you in the stomach while you're doing it because you're completely vulnerable, and that's just sort of the culture of our office, I guess. But one of the cool technologies that we have here is, I guess, a lot of people might have heard of like Microsoft HoloLens, which is an augmented reality technology. It's sort of trying to overlay what you're seeing with your eyes to what you're seeing in a digital model, merging those two worlds together. So like a great example of that would be like the future of this augmented reality technology might be, hey, I know there's a Wells rating on that pan, and when I'm walking around the model, I'm going to look, and if I'm the facility manager or the owner or whatever, whoever's got the technology might pop up that label so I can see, hey, here's what it is. Now we're going to jump into a little YouTube video. It's a product, it's not owned by us or anything like that, it's just one that's out there called Gamma AR. And this one I chose to show you guys today because this one's working off iPad. But what you can see here is a built form, hopefully.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah. So we can see a built form here on an actual site, and you can see we're walking around, and we're going to see our old mate here with his iPad soon, and we're going to see what augmented reality is. So there he is, and you can see it's actually overlaying the BIM model with a real space, and it's doing that live off his iPad. So this is the future where some of this stuff is going. You can imagine what that means for sort of building maintenance, identification. We've sort of worked with people that have come in and spoken about coming in and creating maps and saying, hey, if a tempering valve lets go and you had some sort of sensor on it to say it'll let go, then you come in with your iPad or with your headset, if it was a HoloLens, and it will navigate you to exactly where that was. No wasting times. It can spit out before you get to site and say, hey, here's the things you need this cartridge, and you should bring these tools with you to do the job. So this is sort of some of the future-looking stuff, I guess, in the space. And I think that, the whole BIM world is a pretty exciting space for all of us to participate in. Thanks, Silly. We'll cut that one there.
Sorry.
That's good. I'll jump through. And I guess one of the last things in this frontier would be the legislation. I guess we're really keen to see what happens in this space. I do think something will come that will mandate more of this stuff. And I guess one of the challenges in BIM land is getting that unity so everyone can talk to each other and work with each other's stuff. You hear a lot of talk about open source sort of type philosophies. So I think legislation, I guess I'll have that point up there as something to look out for because I think it will impact on how we operate in this space. And that is everything I have for you between us and lunch.
Memento. Thank you very much, John. There might be a little question there that we could discuss with maybe Neil Sabey over lunch in relation to future legislation or an interest from the Building Codes Board in implementing.
It's already been.
It's all well underway? Good, excellent. All right, well that's lunch. Down on the mezzanine level. Good, enjoy. We'll see you after lunch.